What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I will be making schedule predictions for every single Power 5 team in college football for this upcoming season. And I'll also do a subsequent conference standings video once I finish every team just in a specific conference. It has a little synopsis of all of the schedule predictions I've made. Those synopsis videos will be coming closer to the start of the season, as we get later in on August. I've got a lot of individual videos to put out between now and then, so be on the lookout for that in the future. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the Louisville schedule predictions. Just some quick thoughts on the Louisville program heading into 2022. This is a team that I am actually decently high on heading into next season. I really like Scott Satterfield and what he has done with the entire coaching staff down there. And they have some really interesting pieces on the roster as well that should be very fun to watch heading into next season. I think their offense will be very intriguing. And I expect the offense to be pretty explosive and have some real wow plays. I also think that they're going to be a very disciplined, well-coached team overall. However, this roster still does have some major limitations that are going to reduce the success they're going to be able to have next year. I don't think they have any one in particular player that's just going to elevate this team in Lamar Jackson kind of fashion and allow them to really consistently dominate football games. They have a pretty difficult schedule as well. So even though I really like the team and I think they're going to be very fun to watch next season, I also don't expect them to win the conference or anything like that. So let's go ahead and look at some games that just aren't really worth talking about because the opponents just don't have much of a chance of winning, barring something catastrophic. And there's only one of those for Louisville, and that is James Madison. So Louisville starts the season at Syracuse, and Syracuse kind of one of your bottom teams in the conference. They're just not very good. And Louisville's just a better team than them across the board. They are on the road. It is week one. Maybe you could see something interesting there, but I think Louisville probably gets a win there by a pretty substantial margin. They're just a better team across the board than them. Week 2, very interesting out-of-conference game here at UCF, and UCF is a very good G5 team. I don't think they're as good as Louisville, but they are very good. It's not an easy game. They're better than Syracuse, I'll say that. And so that's one that's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a very tough game, and they're on the road there. I think Louisville gets the win. They are the better team. It's also on a Friday, by the way, which Louisville and the ACC in general has a lot of these weird Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday games this upcoming season. That'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But anyway, this one, I think Louisville gets the win in. Very tough game, though. Not one that you can just easily overlook and chalk up as a guaranteed win. I just think Louisville is still the better team, though. Week 3, similar story here against Florida State. I think the rosters are pretty even. Maybe slight edge to Louisville, and Louisville is the home team. This game is also on a Friday, by the way. And I think Louisville gets the win here, but it is not a guaranteed win by any means. Florida State is a very good team, relative to Louisville. Florida State can give them a real push here. I think Louisville is better, and I do think them being at home makes a big difference here. So I'm going to go with them, but not one that you can just easily ignore and chalk up as a win. Next, they play South Florida, and South Florida is just not very good. It just is what it is. They're just not a very good football team at this point. Louisville is noticeably better than them. Louisville gets them at home. I think Louisville probably wins this by 2, 3, maybe more scores. Then they go at Boston College, and this is one that's very interesting because I think Louisville is ever so slightly better than Boston College, but not by, a lot. And also, they're on the road against Boston College. And Boston College, it's a pretty decent trip there. Not an easy place to go play. And Boston College is going to show up, be very physical, have a very tough edge about them every single week. They're very well coached, very disciplined. And so I think Boston College gets a little bit of an upset. I don't know if it's necessarily an upset. These teams are more of a push, in my opinion. But I think Boston College gets a big win here that can make a big difference in their schedule. And yeah, I think home field advantage is a big reason for that, but also just the play style and stuff like that. I think Boston College gets a nice win there. Louisville then goes at Virginia, and that is another one where Virginia probably not quite as good as Louisville, but they're in the same general range. They're similarly ranked, in my opinion, and not one that you can just easily chalk up as a win, especially on the road there. But I do think Louisville is the better team. I think they're likely to get that win, and I think they will get that win. But again, very close game in my opinion, one that could go either way. I'm not too terribly high on Virginia next year, but that does not mean that you can easily overlook them either. Then Louisville gets a bye week heading into the Pitt game, and this Pitt game I think is going to be very crucial onto how good of a season Louisville can really have. Pitt is a very good team next year, not a team that you can overlook. I think they're probably a little bit better than Louisville roster-wise, But Louisville is in the same range as them. Louisville should be very competitive with them, and I think they can definitely get the win. Also, they're coming off of a bye, and they're at home. So I think all of those things combined, I have Louisville getting in ever so slightly, getting a win there. But definitely a losable game, one that I think could really determine if this is a really good season or just an season for Louisville. I'm going to give them the win, but not one that you want to overlook and just accept as a guaranteed one. Then they play Wake Forest at home, and Wake Forest, I think, is just better than them. They're not dramatically better than them, but they are better than them. And I think Louisville's coming off of a bunch of pretty close, hard-fought games. I think they ended up slipping up here, and it's not really a slip-up because they're not supposed to win this one, but I don't think they get the upset. I think Wake Forest will come in here and get a win against Louisville. A game that should be hard-fought, one that Louisville has a real shot in, one that they can be very competitive in, but still one that I don't think they can I don't think they end up winning. Then the next game I'm going to talk about is at Clemson, and Louisville is just not good enough to really go on the road at Clemson and expect to win at this point. They're not in that same range. They're just not. Clemson is much better than them. Now, it's a game Louisville can be competitive in if they really play well and things go their way and Clemson's offense is sputtering. You could see Louisville getting an upset here, but it's just not likely. Going to have to go with Clemson in this one. Then you have NC State at home, and very similar to the Clemson game. I just don't think they're as good as NC State at this point, but, it's one where they could get the win. It's just not too terribly likely. I'm going to go with NC State in this one. And so then they end the season at Kentucky, and this is, their in-state rival. Very tough game every year. I think Kentucky's going to be very good this year, with it being in Kentucky as well. I think they're a better team than Louisville, similar to that Clemson-NC State thing, like I was saying. A game Louisville could very win. I don't think they will win, and one that, they're just a little bit outmatched in. They're not quite at that level yet, but they're competitive there, and I don't think it's going to be a game that you can just immediately assume they get blown out in either. I do have Kentucky getting the win there, but again, very close game. I think it could end up going either way, but I'm going to go with Kentucky in that one. That would make Louisville 7-5 on the season, and that could very well end up as high as 8 or even 9 wins if they pull off upsets against teams like an NC State or a Kentucky or even a Wake Forest. But I think 7's a good number, and honestly one that fans should be happy with as well this early into Satterfield's tenure. Louisville has some great momentum in the recruiting world right now as well, and they're in a good position as any of the, those middle-level ACC teams to make a real push in the upcoming year to try to get into that elite range, which they're not quite in yet, but they're close. Like I said, they're in that middle range. They're in that second, maybe third tier, and they're in a good position to make a push going forward, and definitely a team that I think you should keep an eye on next season. If they end up with an 8 or a 9 win kind of season. Now, again, I think 7 is much more reasonable for them, but if they do end up with that 8 or 9, keep an eye on them for the years to come, and I think this season is definitely going to be indicative of the potential that this program has in the years to come under Satterfield. Anyway, though, that'll do it for this one. Let me know down below in the comment sections where you agree and or disagree with me on the Louisville schedule in 2022. Tell me what record you think they'll have next year and who, if anybody, they're going to lose to. Also, if you've made it this far in the video, be sure to go ahead and leave a like because it does help out the channel tremendously. And subscribe to the channel for more college football content in the future. I'm going to be uploading, like I said, a video for every single Power 5 team. And that's all going to be coming out very quickly here as we approach August and the beginning of the season pretty soon. So look out for all of those, and go check out some of my old videos if you haven't seen them yet. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.